It's 1997. A woman stands on a bridge, crying. She starts pacing back and forth as the voices in her head torment her. You're not a good mother. You're not a good doctor. You should just die. She climbs to the top of the bridge. She looks down at the water. She leans over and closes her eyes. Approximately 400 physicians die by suicide every year. That's more than one a day. Did you know that physicians are 2 times more likely to die by suicide than non-physicians? Did you know that female physicians are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than their male counterparts? And medical students, they are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than their age range in the general population. Andrea Lua was a 26-year-old 4th-year medical student at New York University Medical School. She was just months away from graduating when they found her hanging by a rope in her dormitory. She had killed herself. 5 days later, a psychiatry resident, also female, at the same institution, died by suicide. And a good friend of mine, 5 years ago, a physician colleague, killed himself. He was 53. This is why I'm here. The statistics on physician suicide are shocking. Why are people here to save lives killing themselves in astonishing numbers? After all, mental health issues are not uncommon. They affect 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. every year. That's 44 million people, approximately 19% of the population. And who in this audience hasn't suffered from anxiety, PTSD, depression, or worse? Research consistently shows there's a strong link between suicide and depression. And it is found that physicians who die by suicide often have untreated or undertreated depression or other mental illness. So, is it that they don't seek treatment as to the reason why physicians die by suicide in record numbers? Well, I'm a physician, and I know that I never chose to seek treatment. And because of that, I was almost a physician suicide statistic. You see that woman on the bridge? That was me. I suffer from situational depression. It's a short-term depression, usually in response to tragic events or changes in personal life. It can be resolved very easily over time, usually with talking, but it can transition into a clinical depression, which is a much more serious diagnosis. So it's 1997, and I am practicing in Washington State with my husband, who's also a physician, and he gets a job transfer from Washington State to Virginia. What did that mean for me? I had to leave my friends. I had to leave my home that I loved on the Puget Sound. And I had to leave my medical practice. And I had some troubles with my daughter, some difficulties. She's a teenager, say no more. And so we had to move. So we moved to Virginia. I get everyone settled in. My husband goes off to work. My children go to their new school. I'm not working. I'm at home. and the sadness creeps in. I feel worthless. I cry a lot. I feel helpless and hopeless. So I called a friend in Washington State, thinking that if I talk to her over the phone, I will feel better. I call her and we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk, and I don't feel any better. Actually, what I thought I needed was a hug and a shoulder to cry on. So I decided to confide in a parent at my daughter's school. And I told her, I said, I really miss my home, I miss my friends, and I really miss my medical practice. I miss my colleagues, the hospital, the nurses. And she listened, and then she said, you seem like you like that job more than you like your daughter. Now, this was not true, but it triggered something in me. I was tormented by this. I actually ran out of the building crying. I ran through the streets crying, and I ended up on a bridge. Now, suicide attempts can be impulsive, meaning no planning, no notes, no goodbyes. The voices in my head were telling me, you're not a good mother, you're not a good doctor, you should just die. So I climbed on top of that railing, and I looked down at the water. And I don't honestly think that I really wanted to kill myself, but I wanted the voices to stop. I wanted the pain to stop. And I knew that if I jumped, it would go away. So I stood there, I closed my eyes, I leaned over, I was holding onto a post, and just before I let go, another voice came into my head. It was my mother. And she said, call your mama. That's all she said, call your mama. Mothers. I stood up, and this is actually what I thought. I thought, if I kill myself now before I talk to my mother, she's gonna kill me. So I got down from that bridge, thank you, Mom, and just before my husband arrived. He took me home, he got me help. I did call my mother. And I was started on intensive outpatient therapy, and I was put on an antidepressant. And something interesting happened. I got better. I got better than better. I got betterer. I had not felt like this for years. For years. I felt good enough that I was ready to go back to work. So, I had a Virginia license. Now I needed to do the applications. And when I started, I went, oh my goodness, I cannot be on an antidepressant. They won't hire me. And I can't go to a psychiatrist. They'll know. So what did I do? I took myself off my medication, even though it was working. I stopped seeing my psychiatrist, even though I really worried that my depression would return. Now, why would I do something like that? Well, for the same reason, all those years of my periodic depression episodes where I just toughed it out and waited for the sadness to go away, fear. Like many physicians, we fear being found out. Because you see, there is a stigma against physicians who are considered mentally impaired. They can be denied health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, medical malpractice insurance. They can have practice restrictions. They can have limitations on their license. This is something that you don't want to take a risk for. So this fear that occurs, physicians will suffer in silence and be untreated because of this fear. And those that are being treated, they do it in secret because of this fear. They may go to another city, another state. They may use a fake name. They pay in cash, so there's no paper trail. Despite the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association, and the Americans with Disability Act to keep our medical history private, half of the licensing applications have this box on it. Have you ever been diagnosed, treated for, or do you currently have all of this? And if a physician checks this box, yes, they are then required, using their own funds, to get all of their information, their mental health information, to the Medical Licensing Board. Who wants to do that? That is the fear that we have. So, there are basically the medical boards and the hospital administration would say that they are obligated to basically protect you from impaired physicians. And in order to do that, they need to know our mental health history. Now, my response to that is, no, they don't. No, they don't. It's private. What needs to be done is to allow physicians who need treatment to get their treatment without scrutiny or repercussions. That's it. So why would I be here speaking to you about this? What do you think you could do about this? Well, I've got something for you. How about if you care about the people who care for you? How about you care about the people who care for you? Did you know that March 30th is National Doctors Day? Woohoo! Every year. So the next time you go to see your physician, when you walk into the office, stand there and just go, "Happy National Doctors Day!" It'll make everybody feel really good. And when you see your physician, say, "Hey, doc, how's it going?" You would be surprised how just saying how you doing to someone will help. Now, the next part of this is a little bit more difficult, and you have to be brave to do this. What you will have to do is, if you know now when you go to see your physician, you go in and they usually will give you a questionnaire, and you need to tell them about your medications, your allergies, on a pain scale of 1 to 10, where's your pain today? But now they also do a mental health form. And some of the questions on that form are you sad? Are you depressed? Do you feel like harming yourself or others? I hope all of you will answer those truthfully. I didn't do that with my friend Jim, who killed himself. I saw him spiraling out of control, binge drinking, binge buying, anger. Now, I asked him, "Jim, how you doing? You seem depressed." But I didn't ask him the important question. Maybe because I was ashamed, I was embarrassed. Maybe I felt like I was invading his privacy, that it was something personal that I shouldn't ask him. I didn't ask him, "Jim, do you ever feel like killing yourself?" When people have destructive behavior, it can be a cry for help. Jim, do you ever feel like killing yourself? I didn't ask him that question, and it haunts me to this day. Do you ever feel like killing yourself? Is there someone you need to ask that question? Suicide is preventable, and it's time to stop the stigma. It's time to stop the stigma. It's time to allow people to get their care, physicians and everyone else, without fear or reprisal. It is the biggest barrier to care. And someday, no one will have to check this box because it won't exist. Thank you.